Hey there, it's Gypsy, and you're listening to the Crush Chronicles podcast, a safe space to discuss crushes and how they affect our lives. So grab your coffee or wine, pull out your old diaries, and settle in for today's topic and discussion. I'd try to not keep my eyes fixed on Connor, but then he'd sway again with his guitar, placing me in a trance with his vocals. Why did I come tonight? I looked over at my friend from choir next to me, 2 years my junior, looking like one of those fans of rock bands you see in music videos, unaware of the history I had with the lead singer she was rocking out to with the rest of the crowd. Her long, silky black mane bounced around her shoulders as she banged her head to the beat, the almondy slits of her eyes squinting with glee as she let the music take her. Oh yeah, that's why. Why do I have to be so damn nice? And then, sway, sway. Welcome to today's episode, and thanks for being here. Today, we're welcoming poetry Yvonne Chelle, who is an intuitive, on-the-spot typewriter poet, a unique art form that blends the timeless craft of poetry writing with the spontaneity of a live performance. With the star of the show, a vintage 1940s Underwood typewriter, Yvonne Chelle takes literary snapshots of her heartfelt human connection and crafts them into words of wonder and wisdom. And I have personally been on that end of it, and it's wonderful. I am pleased to invite Yvonne of Poetry Yvonne Chelle to the show today. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you for being here. So where does Poetry Yvonne Chelle come from?
Okay, so there's a bit of a story to this. My personal Instagram handle is Lady Von Chelle. At the same time, I created an Instagram account because all of my friends had it. Around the same timeline, I was rereading Pride and Prejudice.
Okay. Love that.
Yes, I'm a Pride and Prejudice fangirl, and so I took the word lady. And then I'm also a fan of burlesque, and Dita Von Teese is one of my burlesque inspirations. And Chell, it comes from my childhood nickname, which is Lichel. So when I created my poetry Instagram account, I just kind of wanted it to match my personal account. So it's Poetry Von Chell. I also love the wordplay because Von also comes from Yvonne.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that story behind that.
And it's like Poetry Von and then Chell, which is my childhood nickname. So yeah, I love a good wordplay.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. As a poet. Yeah, you should. Okay. So share a little bit about your business. So if I were a customer coming to sit down with you right now, what would the process be?
Well, first, I tell them first that I'm a typewriter poet. Basically, you can give me any topic you want, and I can write a poem on the spot. And I'm going to use this vintage typewriter to do it. And then sometimes they'll have a hard time thinking it's like, oh, I don't know what. So I'll throw out some ideas. Like I've written poems about people's pets, about their loved ones, about a personal journey they're going through, or maybe just some words of wisdom for, something they just want to feel comforted by. And then I type it on my typewriter, and then which is like my favorite part of the process is I read the poem back to them.
That's great. And how long have you been doing this?
I just hit my business anniversary, my 1 year business anniversary. So I've been doing this for 1 year and I think 5 or 6 days now.
Congratulations. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
That's such a great milestone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before we get started into the conversation, we're gonna crush some ice. Who is a current celebrity or fictional crush you have, or one that you had in your childhood?
So my current celebrity crush is Darren Criss. You might know him from
Okay.
Glee. Yes.
Yeah.
You might know him from Glee. He's currently in Broadway right now. And he just won his first Tony, which I'm like so happy about.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome.
And my childhood celebrity crush is Daniel Radcliffe. I have to say that because I seem to have a pattern
Okay.
of liking men who are like really comfortable in their masculinity and also who are like theater nerds and who may have played Harry Potter at some point in their lives.
Where did you first see Darren Criss?
On YouTube, when he was with his college theater group in when he played Harry Potter in a Harry Potter musical.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and because I was a really big Harry Potter nerd. I probably still am,
Same.
but yeah, my friend had sent that to me, and I was just like, wow, that's really amazing. And then the next thing we knew, he was on Glee. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great one. So is he in anything now? Like, what did he win the Tony for?
He just originated a role on Broadway right now. It's called Maybe Happy Ending. He plays a retired robot who learns to fall in love with another robot.
Oh my gosh, what a
Yes.
great concept.
I
So,
know, right?
yeah, that's so cool. Okay, let's see. So, usually I share one of mine, and
Hmm.
I had one and then I forgot it. So, let's see. Who is,
Theater, music, actor,
yeah,
book,
I know.
reality.
I know. Why I am blanking real hard. Let's see. Okay, so if we go to Harry Potter, probably, okay, fictional character when I was younger, when I was reading the
Hmm.
books. I was all about Fred Weasley. Don't ask me why Fred specifically, because I know they're basically
Twins.
they're basically like carbon copies of each other. There was
Hmm.
they she really wrote them as kind of very inseparable and extremely identical. They were basically
Yeah.
like one person. But no, Fred Weasley, she wrote them very well. And I would just remember laughing out loud so much whenever
Hmm.
the Weasleys were doing something. But for some reason, I was so drawn to Fred more.
Hmm.
I have a thing where I'll name my phone, my computer, like all my electronics, I'll name them after Harry Potter characters. And my microphone is named Fred
Oh
after Fred
my
Weasley.
God. No, you know what? I think Fred might be the more um doer, or like the go-getter between the two twins. The difference is subtle, but I think Fred might be the more do the thing George will kind of follow. I'm
Yeah,
like, it's a very subtle difference, but I think that's what I'm feeling from them.
yeah. I'll have to reread this series. And also, I just want to say out there, hashtag trans rights, because as
That's
we all
right.
know,
Yes.
with all that nonsense, but yeah, the story had already gotten implanted in my soul. And I am a believer that once artwork is out there, it's out there and it's up for interpretation. So,
Hmm.
our interpretation of Harry Potter is stuck with us, but also trans
Yeah, of
rights. So,
course. Trans rights.
just
Let's
had to
just
put
not.
that out there.
Yeah, let's not say her name. So also, the same time when I first watched a Harry Potter musical and saw Darren Criss and learned that he wrote the music, and then he at the same time I was just also getting into Glee, and Kurt was
Oh,
becoming
okay.
my favorite character. So when season 2 announced that they'll be casting Kurt's love interest, and it was Darren Criss, like, so like the Star Kid fan in me was like, world like fandom collide moment. And then,
Yeah. Oh my
Glee
gosh.
was I was just so nuts for those two. And then just, watching him be like this really dapper, prim proper type of character. It's like, I know he's gay, but you know what, I really appreciate that aesthetic. But also I really appreciated like
Yes.
Darren's personal characteristics, which is he's just so rebellious in a way against gender stereotypes, and like he's very comfortable in his sexuality. I know he's married now. He has 2 kids, so, and like, but he's the type who will like wear nail polish to an awards show. I think he once wore a skirt and an open blazer to another major event. So, and he's just very comfortable with that. So that kind of rock and roll, attitude against gender stereotypes, that's kind of really cool to me.
Yeah, I like that too. It reminds me a lot of Harry Styles. I know Harry Styles was
Mm.
also like rocking the conformity with that, and I do think it's really important, especially for males out in the world, to have somebody setting that example. Because I think, as a whole, as a society, we do need to like let loose a little bit. But I do think there's a lot of pressure put on men to just really conform to like that
Yeah.
masculine stereotype. Somebody's got to start softening that a little bit and let it go. There's too much pressure there. So yeah, I really love that. I love that you brought that up. Let's get into the chronicling. So before you joined today, you read the 7th chapter of Connor's story in the Crush Chronicles, which is titled The Pieces. So we're going to have a discussion inspired by that excerpt. And quick reminder to listeners, the questions I ask are inspired by the piece from the Crush Chronicles, but you do not have to have read any of it to enjoy the discussion. But if you'd like to, the link to today's excerpt is in the show notes. In this excerpt, teen Rachel is hanging out with her friend after school because she was a big participant in drama club. What clubs or after-school activities did teenage Yvonne partake in?
I partook in the CAT, which is like it's an ROTC, but in the high school level in Philippine high schools.
So were
So
you in the Philippines in high school?
yes, I was.
Wow. Okay. So when did you come to America?
I moved out here in but I was born here also.
So you were born here and
Hmm.
then you went to the Philippines for
Hmm.
like grade school and then came back in 2018. Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow. How was that?
It was good. I mean, I was a nerd. I was that girl who had braces, wore glasses, and was obsessed with Harry Potter, had a huge crush on Daniel Radcliffe, and just read a lot of books.
I love that. You're like a kindred spirit here. And as somebody who moved around a lot, how was it for you having to move from the Philippines back over here?
Hmm. It was a bit of an adjustment, but also since the Philippines has consumes a lot of Western media, it's like I'm kind of already familiar with the culture, but it was also interesting because when I started interacting more with just like, everyday people, I realized that, oh, there are so many different accents that I had to get my ears used to hearing. So that was also bit of an adjustment because it was like, I understand you. I know you're speaking English, but this is really interesting. You're speaking too fast for me. This is so interesting. So it took a while for me to adjust to that also. And then also learning the common slang words, but also I felt more free being myself here, not only because I was away from my parents, but also I just felt like America was more accepting of different beauty standards. Because kind of did not fit into the Philippine beauty standards, which is thin, fair skinned. I mean, I am fair skinned, but I was not thin. But here, because it's a melting pot culture, people appreciated so many kinds of beauty. And I think for the first time, I actually appreciated how I look here and when I came here.
Well, that's great. I love that that's an effect that you got over here because I mean, a lot of young women, I feel like no matter where you are, you're going to have a feeling like you
Mhm.
don't fit in or that you have some sort of beauty standard that you need to meet and you're not meeting it. But I'm
Hmm.
glad that you felt like when you got here, it
Hmm.
made you a lot more comfortable.
Another thing that helped me uh, feel good about myself, it was seeing different size models in the billboards. Like for Gap, for Target, they had all these different size women in the billboards, and that's like, plastered on display. Whereas because in the Philippines, they only had like the prettiest, thin, just aesthetically beautiful people to promote their products. Here, they're promoting their products to different kinds of demographics. I felt seen. It's like, oh, this actually works. Like, oh, they actually have something for me. Like, okay, maybe I could be beautiful too, like that. So I think that's how I felt when
But
I
you
got
are
here.
beautiful too, like that.
Thank
Yes,
you.
you totally are beautiful too, like that. And I love that you shared that perspective because it was not always like that, right? It was like
Mhm.
that here where basically the models were like tall, blonde, and skinny, or if they were brunette or, a woman of color, or a person of color, they had to meet like certain standards. But,
Mhm.
there has been, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but there's been such a movement for body inclusivity and
Mhm.
proper, DEI inclusion and stuff. So just to know that you had such a really like personal effect on that, it's so great to see that we might living through it, we might not feel like we're making much progress, but I feel like you just saying that says that we are getting some movement done, because I feel like 20 years ago that may not have been the case.
Yeah,
And yeah, so that's wonderful. I'm so glad that you felt that way.
it
That's
worked.
so happy. Yeah, absolutely. And I hope we continue to keep moving forward.
Totally.
So what was the reason for you to come back to America after the Philippines?
I wanted a new life, basically. I
Okay.
was still living with my parents in my late 20s, and I was kind of a sheltered kid. It's like they wanted me to go after my dreams, become successful, become a millionaire, businesswoman. But at the same time, they wanted to keep me safe. And usually that means stay home. Like, don't go out too much. Don't, be careful who I date. Don't make too much mistakes. So I was kind of like sheltered. I decided that, you know what? I'm almost nearing 30. I'm 36 now. I wanted to experience something new. I want my growth. So I moved out here since since I was born out here. Basically I moved out here. I live with my aunt. I just wanted to experience the world, on my own terms. And when I got here, I was like, I feel the freedom to make mistakes and to learn from it, because no, that's really how we learn. That's how we go about life. And when I was still living in the Philippines, I was just afraid of doing things that may have me make mistakes and make me slip up, because I felt like I was going to be scolded for it. It's like, oh, why didn't you do this? Like, why didn't you do this? Like, oh, you should have known. I would have not. So living here, it just felt like I'm free to make mistakes and no one is around here to get mad at me except myself, and I can learn from it. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do have two kids. I have two girls, 12 and 10. And as a parent, I have to say one of the biggest struggles is letting kids go to make their mistakes. It's so hard, especially because when they're little, you're heavily dependent on you for survival. So you kind of get used to doing everything. And then also it's just really painful to see your kid in pain. So it's kind of like a natural instinct to kind of like guard from that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like I'm having to learn, like, you need to let them go and let them fall down a little bit, because you're totally right. Like, even learning it with myself, just like you learned yourself, I have to not be afraid to fail in order to learn
Mm-hmm.
from it. I probably feel like people are going to yell at me. Nobody's going to yell at me except for
Mm-hmm.
myself. Just kind of like you said, nobody's here to be like, oh, well, you should have known better. But like you said, no, I shouldn't have, because I didn't know, because I didn't go through the thing yet. So
Exactly.
how was I supposed to know better? Yeah, I totally, that's kind of like how I resonated with what you just said. Anyway, so I totally like derailed our conversation. So you said you were part of CAT in
Mm-hmm.
high school, and you said that was the equivalent to like ROTC in
Yes.
the United States. So was that the only thing that you did? Did that take up like a lot of your time?
It was an after school type of thing, but also I think at one point for 1 year, I also took karate classes outside of school. So for a while, I did learn how to do karate. I did learn how to punch, how to kick, and all of the kata, the memorized movements. And I think I've also joined like a competition or two, and then I picked it up again when I went to college.
Cool. Okay. So mostly in high school, it was mostly the CAT, but then you did like these other things too, like every like
Yes.
kind of sporadically throughout there. Awesome.
Yes.
And how much did you enjoy them? Like, did you get to choose what you got to do?
Let's see. Kind of. I mean, it was my parents' idea actually to enroll us into karate. I think it's they're thinking like one, self-defense, two, exercise. And you know what? I kind of enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I didn't mind. And oh, I just remembered also, a couple of years later, they enrolled us into music class. I tried piano class for a while and vocal lessons. And I guess I didn't really have much of a flair for musical talent. I mean, I can dance, but otherwise, playing an instrument or singing, I guess that's not where my skill sets were in, or something I wasn't super passionate about.
But you're okay being in the audience for it. Like you were there for Darren Chris.
Yes. Yes, I totally was. I knew there was a part of me that liked performing. Like, I don't mind getting up on a stage and dancing or just getting in front of an audience and speaking. Back then, even teenage me knows that there's a part of me that likes performing for an audience. I don't know, I didn't know back then in which medium, but I enjoyed it.
That's such an amazing thing to discover at such a young age, especially that you said it was a part of you, because I feel like for most people, that would be so scary and not,
Mhm.
that would be a deal breaker. Like they do not want to get on stage, or they're like the complete opposite and they're like want to be the star of the show. They like to
Mhm.
go into acting or singing, whatever, and they're full on it. But you were like, I don't need to be in there, but there's a part of me that likes a little bit. So I think that was a great thing for you to discover at a young
Yeah.
age.
I think I was a theater kid. I think I would call myself I'm a theater kid without the actual talents, without the actual theater talents. I'm afraid I'm not a very good singer. I'm not a very good actress. I can sort of dance, but otherwise, I wish I had those talents. I would have totally been a theater kid.
You know, I was a theater kid too, and I was mostly backstage. I very rarely did stuff on stage. And yeah, you don't have to be like the super talented spotlight person to be a theater kid.
Mhm.
So yeah, you were definitely a theater kid at heart. But yeah, because like you said, with your work that you do now, it's kind of like it's got a little bit of performance in there. So
Mhm.
what gave you the idea for doing your poetry and then kind of performing it back when you're done with it?
So it's really a thing, I guess, for other typewriter poets. So the first time I've ever seen a typewriter poet was on Instagram. She just came into my algorithm and I saw what she was doing, that she sets herself up at a park somewhere in London. She writes poetry for strangers and she reads it back to them as a way of like returning, presenting the poem to them like a little personal performance for an audience of one or two. And I was just so enamored by the whole thing. It's like it's not only the performance aspect from it, but it's the writing aspect also of it. So it's like you take a piece of their soul, you turn it into something tangible, like, poetry and words. And then when you gift it back, and then just the gesture of gifting the words back to them, back, you're gifting their soul back to them by speaking it with your voice, with the words you've written for them. I saw the spiritual exchange, what happens there. So when I perform the poem back to my patrons, it's like I get to channel that inner theater kid in me that always wanted to perform in front of stage, like be the lead actress. But this one's like more intimate. This is just for them in that very moment.
Yeah, I love that. So I that's just another example of social media coming in clutch, right? Because you got inspired by another artist, and it's also just another example of how art inspires art. So yeah, I love that origin story. So what motivated you to be like, okay, now I'm gonna do it?
What motivated me? Let's say I needed to look for a job. So
That's always a good motivation.
yes, because the 6 months before I've started my typewriter poetry business, I was unemployed. I was struggling in the job market. It was so competitive. Not now I have to fight AI just so my resume can be seen by an actual human person. So I thought so at some point like okay, I need to go out, network, meet an actual human, so they can see my value. So I decided to start a business so I can go out, meet people, hopefully meet someone who knows someone who is hiring and all that. And like, it was my way of looking for my dream job. And then 4 months into my business, I realized that I think this is my dream job. I think writing poetry for people is actually my life purpose because I got so much spiritual satisfaction from what I was doing, and just having the words for people who didn't have the words, it just left me feeling like I have an actual purpose in society or in the humanity at all. Just like the art that I was giving to these people, and helping them express how they feel to their loved ones. I just felt really satisfied doing that. So that made me realize, you know what? I think this is it. I think this is what I'm meant to do in this life.
I love that. That's so great. I really responded to how you described it as giving words to people that don't have the words. I think that's such a beautiful way to describe what writers do, whether it's
Mhm.
writing poetry like you do or fiction or not, whatever it is. For example, for me, I've written all my life. So for me, it's so easy just to put pen to paper and have something to come out. It's really hard for me to understand that that's not easy for other people. That's so great for giving words to people that don't have the words. I really love that. And such a beautiful way for you to, like, it's basically like you're giving like a very artful public service. Like, it's, because
It
people
is.
do we need that, but it's one-on-one, it's face to face, which I feel like
Mhm.
we do need to appreciate our technology does so much for us, but also we do need to find a balance with making sure we still have human, like literal, like physical human connection. I just feel like you found something really great and it satisfies your soul so much, and that you're able to do
Absolutely.
that. And it originally started as like a means to an end, right? You were just like, this is
Yeah.
how I'm going to network and find a
Yes.
job. And then it ended up, like most things, it just ended up working out in a way you couldn't imagine. Thanks for sharing your origin story.
And also one of the awesome things was there was this poem I wrote for this husband. I can tell he has so much love for his wife, but he just didn't have the right words to say it. It's like other than I love you, I'm here for you. It's like that's all he can say. I got to listen to him. I also got to feel his energy, and I turned how he really feels for his wife into poetry form. And when I gave it back to him, he was like, that's exactly how I feel. So it's like, oh, I did it. I did it.
Yeah, that's so validating for both you and for him. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's so wonderful. Perfect example of the public service that you provide. Okay, so after reading this excerpt, the pieces from the Crush Chronicles, what part of the story or parts of the story stuck out to you or resonated with you, and why?
It for me, what resonated was the moving on process. My very first boyfriend was in high school. He was actually in the CAT with me. The thing is, we only lasted for 2 weeks, and then he broke up with me because he was still in love with my best friend.
No, my
I
God.
know. Yes, girl. And then that was my very first experience with heartbreak. So, and as a teenager, the emotions you feel are heightened, it's more intense. Going through my very first heartbreak was really crushing. And thinking and just the moving on process, it took months. And because it's like I saw him almost every day, it was annoying. I was listening to music, I was talking to my friends about him, trying to avoid him, but he's there. I've actually finally fully moved on from him after we graduated because I didn't have to see him every day. I remember it was the confusion, the intensity, the messiness, the rawness of teenage angst, of having all those feelings for someone who will not return those feelings to you. Deep inside, you know it's not right for you, but you have to move on. You have to keep moving forward no matter what, because I'm also someone who doesn't look back, you know? It's like, all right, that's done. There's no second chance.
Yeah, and what's hard is, like you said, being stuck, like trying to move on. It's kind of making you look back a little bit because you're stuck there. Like you still
Yes.
want that person that, like you said, they've moved on. They don't return the feelings. Kind of like what we were saying earlier. You have to go through it in order to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is really hard when you're a teenager, and it's funny how, with the exception of the best friend love triangle, which I'm really sorry that happened because that's really hard. The 2 week thing, yeah, that was totally like 100% what happened with me. And I don't know about you, but I was completely blindsided by it. Like, I was just like, I thought everything was, fine and dandy, but apparently we need to break up now.
Yeah, I think so too. Me too.
Yeah, it's like a slap in the face. It's like, what? It's barely started. Well, I'm glad that you were able to relate with that a lot because the moving on process is really hard. no matter what we're doing in life. But yeah, the
Absolutely.
teenage hormones really do not help. They do not help at all.
There's also one thing that I learned from that, that I've taken to um, the rest of my life. It's that if I survived my very first teenage heartbreak, I think I could survive anything else because that was rough.
Yeah, it's so true. And I'm glad that you realized that because I didn't. And I feel like a lot of teenagers don't because we're just so like, oh my gosh, woe is me. Like everything just really sucks. And it's hard to get out of
Mhm.
that mindset. And it doesn't make the next heartbreak any easier. But I think we do forget to remember that we survived and it did not kill us. If anything,
Absolutely.
we have a lot to learn. Yeah, I think a lot of us, especially at that young age, forget to think about that. So that's really good that you picked up on that. You're so wise, a wise young teenager. Okay, so at the beginning of this chapter, it's described how teen Rachel had taken a lot of time building up a wall of confidence only to have it shattered once she got dumped. What was a time you've had your confidence shattered by a crush?
So I had a crush on one of my high school friends, but I started having a crush on him when we were in college. He and I went to different colleges, but we sometimes we would get together with our high school friend group. I developed a crush on him, and I think I might have been too much about it. I think I was trying to push myself on him. Looking back in retrospect, it's like I was probably too much for him to, you know, for him to feel that. And I think that turned him off because he didn't return those feelings. I created this notebook with little writing pieces, art pieces that I gave to him, and uh, well, he gave it back to me because he didn't feel the same way. So that hurt. I repressed a lot of my feelings early on. Like if I start to feel like I have a crush on someone, I immediately yank myself back like, nope, we're not doing this, girl. We're not doing this because they're never going to like you back. So I somehow got it into my head that okay, if I like a guy, he's never gonna like me back. So I just gotta be okay with that, you know? So that's why did repress a lot of my crushes. I mean, the feelings of having a crush, or like I just kept it to a manageable level. Like, set my expectations. Like, okay, if I like this guy, we're not gonna be together. This is just a crush. He's not gonna like me back. I'm like too much. So that's how I handled it.
I can see why that would shatter your confidence because you put, obviously, as an artist, you put a lot of yourself into that book that you gifted him. And then to have him give it back, teenage Rachel probably would have died if that happened.
Yes.
So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. But also, I hope that you've learned since then that you're not too much for people. Like you just have to find the person that it is like a good match for your muchness. I think that a lot of people do what you do. It's because, man, crushes are just so damn hard and it doesn't get any easier the older that you get. But yeah, it's like the high of them being around and then you kind of get flustered and you do stupid crap and
Mm-hmm.
then you're embarrassed about the stupid crap. So, yeah, I think a lot of people try to, like you said, you kind of repress it and minimize it because, especially as you get older, the responsibilities pile on. You've got to focus on so many things. You do
Yes.
kind of have to manage things. But at the same time, you don't want to have the mentality of it's never going to happen because that's also not true too. You have to be able to open up. So I hope that since then you've been able to be like, I am not too much for anybody. And yes, it is totally possible for feelings to be reciprocated. But I do think you're so like on point with like, I think everybody has felt that way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still single right now. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't get really asked out much often. So, I'm just letting life like, flow wherever it takes me.
Yeah. And I mean, own it. I am very much a true advocate and supporter of women don't have to get married or be coupled up to be happy either. So it's just like you said, wherever life takes you. You're just such like a beautiful, great force. Like ever it's
Aw,
wonderful.
thank you.
Everything Yvonne is wonderful. Yes. Okay, so while attempting to get over the breakup, teen Rachel is cheered up for the first time by her friend from drama club, Anne, when she offers to beat Connor up in teen Rachel's honor. What experience have you had in which someone has helped you in this way after a breakup, or one in which you were the one doing the cheering up?
So my most recent situation where I dated a guy for 8 months. This was back in 2022. My coworker and I both left our relationships, or we both got broken up on the same weekend. So she and I, we've been like helping each other cope. We'd talk to each other about the breakup. We'd tell each other like, "Do we miss?" It's like, "Yeah, we miss him." We would go out. She would take me out drinking and dancing. She held me when I was sobbing over him at the Hermosa Beach Pier. you know. So my friend Maribel, she was there for me when I was getting over that breakup. And there was another instance years ago. A friend of ours in my friend group in the Philippines, she texted us like she just broke up with her boyfriend that we didn't like. I told all of our friends, "All right, guys, let's go over to her house. Let's bring some beer and some pizza." We all got together, we all trooped to her house, and then we just talked, ate, had a good time. That was really fun. I mean, sure, she
Yeah.
was crying. She was she was talking about the breakup, but I thought it was a nice way how we all got together, just yeah, beer, pizza, like just talking about it. I know I initiated that, so that's how I would help a friend in the fresh breakup. Just gather the troops. Let's go.
Yes, yes, because you do need your troop of friends. That does sound really fun, even if it is somebody's grieving over a past relationship. It's just a great way to connect. I'm sure even though she was sad, she was also probably very like filled and happy because, she had all of these great friends around her, like providing her with sustenance, beer and pizza, necessities.
When I got broken up with for the very first time, like the very first heartbreak, I dealt with that alone. Because, oh yeah, additional detail. Since he and I were both in the CAT, it wasn't really encouraged for officers to get into relationships with each other. So we had to keep it a secret. So I had to keep it a secret from our other, co officers. And some of my friends knew. I didn't tell my family at all. So I dealt with that at home. I have this core memory of me sitting at the side of my bed and I just really cried hard. And I had to learn how to cope by myself. I had to learn how to piece myself back together again because I didn't want my family to know. And there are some people in school who can't know. That's why I wanted to do that for my friend because I didn't want her to go through it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's so hard. Like you said, the feelings are intense, and then you're going through a lot of hurt, and then to not be able to have a support system. We totally need that support system, and for you to not have access to it at the time for understandable reasons, it had to be a secret. You didn't want your family to know. That was like another way that you had to repress feelings. That's so hard, but obviously you learned for it. It made you such like a good friend because you wanted to make sure that your friend wasn't in that same boat.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's so hard. That's really really hard. I was very lucky that when that happened with me, I immediately called my best friend and she consoled me for an hour. I can't imagine being a teenager going through your first heartbreak alone. But yeah, like you said, you learned from it and it didn't kill you. And yeah,
Yeah.
strong woman you are. Strong woman.
Yeah, you just learn from it, honestly. That's all you can do.
Yeah, that's all you can do. I mean, I guess you could not learn from it, but that's not the goal. Some people do choose not to learn from it. What we want is for you to learn from it. Okay, so one of the most difficult things about a breakup is the sudden absence of the person who used to take up a lot of your personal space and time. And teenage Rachel had trouble dealing with this grief. In what ways can you relate to this?
Since I had to deal with that heartbreak alone, I turned to I guess to books, listening to to songs about heartbreak. I think it's a lot, especially the music. I think music is such an integral part of teenage culture because the songs that you love and you listen to when you're in your teenage years, you're gonna carry that forever for the rest of your life. It's gonna be embedded in you because you're still in that developmental stage. The music is going to get embedded in you, whether it's about heartbreak, it's about joy. It's going to spark a memory in you. So every time I listen to Angel of Mine, I remember him. I remember my first boyfriend. Also, back then we had Yahoo Chat, Yahoo Messenger. I
Mhm.
think that's where. Oh yeah, I just remembered. That's where he broke up with me on over Yahoo Messenger.
What? He didn't even
Yes.
give you a phone call or a face to face? Oh my
Nope.
goodness.
I mean,
Okay, I hope
teenage
he
boys,
learned
you
from that
know.
because that's not cool. Yeah, that is not cool. You don't do that.
We all make the mistakes.
Oh my goodness. I know. We're so young and we don't know, but yeah.
Just looking back, grief and music, they really go together, especially when you're a teenager. So that when you could be 40, 50 years old, you hear that song again, and then you're like, oh God, I remember. I remember how that felt. I remember that person. So I know I coped a lot by listening to a lot of music. I read some more. I know I probably went online at some point doing my research. How to get over a heartbreak. Follow that.
Well, that's good. That was a good resource.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I was like you. I definitely listened to a lot of music.
Mm-hmm.
I think I put in there like my go-to album was Avril Lavigne because it was the right amount of like anger,
Mm-hmm.
angst, and sadness, I
Female
think.
rage.
But also, yeah, yeah. And then also, I think I probably, because in high school, that was when I was very into Harry Potter. So if I was reading, I probably just cracked open another Harry Potter book
Mm-hmm.
or watched another like Harry Potter movie and just kind of.
Did you read the fan fiction?
I did not read any fan fiction. Yeah, I'm not a big fan fiction. I never went down that rabbit hole, which is probably good because because I would I would lose a lot of hours with that, but you did like at the same time.
That's how I started writing. I read Harry Potter and then I saw that fan fiction, and then my best friend that time introduced me to Harry Potter fan fiction, and I realized, oh, I want to write fan fiction, and then that's where I discovered that I had writing talents.
Awesome. I love that that's how you like discovered your writing passion.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
Harry Potter
so
fan
fun.
fiction.
Yeah, that's great. See, art inspiring art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, but yeah, I definitely I really do think that what you said is true about how music is so integral to teenage culture. With my own writing, when every time I post a chapter, I add a playlist to it of songs that either like when I listen to them, it makes me think of that crush or that moment or that time. So I try to have at least 9 songs on every playlist. But yeah, because it's true. Like I'm 40 years old now, but when I hear those songs, it definitely transports me back to how I felt when I was 14. Even if it wasn't a crush, even if it was just like dancing with friends in the living room or
Yes.
something. I think that's like a big part why our music really stays with us for a long time. Even if it's not even a good song. Like it still stays because if it means something to us, it will stay with us.
Absolutely,
So yeah, I
100%.
really, really love that. Okay, so teen Rachel describes her heartbreak and longing for her ex as being addicted to kryptonite. She knows it's painful and not good for her, but she gives in to it frequently. How would you describe the longing feeling of still wanting to be with an ex but knowing you should move on?
Would describe it as you're walking, you're putting one foot forward, but your feet feels like it's being dragged back. Your feet are heavily weighed down, and it's like it's trying to keep you in the past. But you know that you have to keep moving forward, so you have to take one step at a time. And there are times you will feel stuck. It feels like you can't move. You're just being all consumed by the grief and the longingness and the angst. Yeah, I remember now. The angst can feel good because it just gives you so much. It's like a bad, yeah, it is like a bad drug. It gives you so much intensity and feelings, and there's something about it that makes you feel alive in a way, in a not in a good way, but in an ugly way that you can't help but turn to your art at that time. Because from that angst, art will surface, whether you sing, whether you write poetry, whether you paint. That is where a lot of famous art comes from. It's in the struggle, it's in the angst of the intensity of the emotions. And sure, and yeah, I remember it was so hard to move on because you see that person every day. You realize that it's easier to move on when you don't see them. It's gonna be hard because you're always gonna look for reminders of them, like whether it's like, oh, that used to be our song. Oh, we watched that movie together. Oh, we had the snack that I'm eating. We enjoyed this together, during one date, and just let those be. I mean, sure, those things are like trying to pull you back into the past. But I think honestly, the challenge is no matter how slow you're moving, no matter how heavy it feels, you just gotta keep moving forward because it's not the end of the world. He is not oh, we'll reconnect sometime later in life, when we're much older and all that. Like, honestly, I mean, if it does, then yes, it's meant to be, but also you're going to grow into a different version of you that's not going to match who he's going to be in the future. So at some point, you just got to respect that. That's the reality of life. He's not going to be the last one.
Yes, no, that was so beautifully said. It's almost like you're a poet. Um,
I could be,
but
right? Maybe. I should try and change my
yeah,
career.
no, just from like oh my gosh, your analogy of, trying to move on, but you can't, of being stuck, like there's weight on your feet, like you take a step forward, but something's pulling you back. Like you are actively trying to go forward, but the feelings, the angst, whatever, seeing him when you weren't expected, hearing this song that was your song, those are the things that pull you back, right? And it was such a good visual because it's so true. That is really what it feels like when you know you need to move on, but you can't because
Mm-hmm.
you're still healing. Um, and then I really loved what you said about how you are going to grow into a person that does not match the person that he's going to grow into. It doesn't mean that you're going to forever be in sync because, yeah, we're constantly changing. Even me, like in my middle age, like I'm not going to be the same 10, 15 years from now that I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're constantly changing. And I just think that is such a good thing for everybody to keep in mind, that there's a lot of growth for not just for both of you. And it doesn't mean that you're going to always be able to grow together. For people that can make it work, that's great. But I
Mm-hmm.
also think it also makes me think of, like, obviously divorce is a big thing.
Yes.
But it also, from what you said, there's really no shame in divorce. Yes, it's hard, especially if you have kids. Like, it definitely should not be taken lightly. It needs to be handled with a lot of care. But a lot of times it just means that you guys grew in different directions, or like the couple grew
Mm-hmm.
in different directions. It doesn't mean that there was necessarily anything wrong. It's just the couple is not in sync anymore. So I think that was just like a beautiful thing that you pointed out, because I don't think we really think about, I think we think of things in terms of how they are now and that it's going to stay that way for a long time. We
Agreed.
don't really think about how to nurture ourselves in the now, but also remember to make room for any possible growth in the future. That there's always a possibility of change. So yeah,
Mhm.
I think that was so wonderfully said. Thank you for that answer to that question.
You're welcome. Also, I know his birthday's coming up in the next coming days. I was just thinking about it earlier today. Like, I know his birthday's coming up. And he's a good friend of mine right now. So just looking at him at where we are right now, it's like we don't match at all. The person we both grew out we
You're like, I have no regrets now. Yeah.
Yes. So which is why I'm a type of person who doesn't look back.
That's great that you guys were able to stay friendly. That's also very hard to do. A lot of people can't really handle that. But it's funny, I actually do remember a few of my crush's birthdays as well. And it's just funny how those things stick in your mind. I don't know if maybe it's
Yes.
like you said, maybe it's like the music when we're a teenager. It's just like it kind of got stuck in your growing brain.
Yes.
I'm just like, why did I retain that information? But I can't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday. It's just so weird. So, if you were to write your own story, which crush in your life would you write about and why?
So I had this crush on this really handsome guy at work. I in the Philippines, I used to work in a bookstore, right? So
Oh my
and
gosh, that's amazing.
yes.
Sorry, I just love books.
No, 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 that's great. It's great. It was my dream job. It was like it's like every
Oh,
it was a bookworm's dream job. And I was just so happy.
yes. I am so happy for you too.
Thank you. So the bookstore we had, they had a cafe. They had a little restaurant cafe. He's the boss of that cafe. I think he's also like somehow related to the bookstore's boss. So that's why he's managing it. And girl, he was handsome. Like square jawline, that dark Filipino skin. Like he was like bookish, fictional type hot guy. And really gorgeous smile. If I would write a story about a crush, it would be him because it's just the situation of it all, like cafe boss meets bookstore, meets bookstore girl. Just the setting in itself would I think would make a fun story because there are lots of funny stories I've had working in a bookstore, and my coworkers, they were really funny, like all the shenanigans, like all the funny stuff we would get into behind the scenes of trying to do our jobs. And yeah, he manages the cafes, so I think that I would totally write about that. It's such a good setting.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely got cozy romance settings.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were describing him, to me, it sounded like he was basically somebody that probably walked out of one of those books in the bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you do write it. That sounds like a really fun read because there's so many like cozy romances. And yeah, if bookstores as book nerds, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's perfect. And I love coffee, cafe, bookstore. Yeah.
Yes.
What a good choice of yours. I love that. So, with that, we've reached the end of our time for the episode. But before you go, are there any like final questions or comments that you would like to ask or to share?
I guess just some more words of wisdom, if you don't mind.
No, not, of course not.
This podcast recording really got me thinking about who I was as a teenager and how she coped with heartbreak and grief for the first time. It's like, what could I have done differently? What could I have done, better? And the honest answer is absolutely nothing. Teenagers, I want to say, revel in the messiness of the situation, the raw, messy angst that you're feeling in the moment, because you're not going to do it right, because you don't have any prior experience to this. If this is your first heartbreak, you're just going to get through it the best you can, even if it means, like, I don't know, calling your ex at 3 a.m. crying, I don't know, writing a big sign saying I miss you, just like all those crazy things that you don't know that you're doing right. It's just, I want to say, yeah, revel in that messiness, because that's the experimentation stage of who you are and how are you learning to cope with this new emotion. But and also, it's listen to a lot of music, because this will be future inspiration, joy, future triggers when you're like way older. And also, it's okay to be like really cringe about it, especially telling for the like younger generation. It's okay to be cringe, because admit it, you don't have your stuff together. No matter how many podcasts you listen to, no matter how many articles, like how to get over breakups. I mean, I'm a Gemini, so I did my research. I was like, how do I get over a breakup? Also, don't be afraid to create from those emotions, because that's really where a lot of art comes from. Write poetry, write songs for the first time. That's the time for you to do something also creative, because and also the creative is going to help you channel out that grief, that heartbreak, that longing. And if you think about it, there's a lot of really good songs out there about longing, and of course they come from a place that was so real. It's not an imagined situation. It comes from an actual real place of longing and unrequited love. So those are my last words. Revel in that messy human experience of getting over a heartbreak.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for saying that and thank you for sharing that because I think it's important to remember that, like you said, it's the the teenage heartbreak, usually it's going to be your first time. So like you said, you're not going to have your shit together. You're not going to know what to do. You're never going to experience that first time ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And you're never going to feel the raw emotions that you in that same way. You'll feel them again, but not in that same way because it won't be the first time. It's almost like the antithesis to like your first kiss or your first, start or your first relationship or something. It's equally important to revel in that too. And also, I love the advice to listen to music because, or whatever your art form may be, revel in it. And I loved this conversation that we had today because I feel like it's such proof or such like a statement to how important art is in the world, to society, to people, to culture, because it's one of my personal, like, I can't think of the right word, like pet peeves, I guess, that usually in education, art's the first thing to get cut.
Yes.
And although I kind of understand that, I also am very angry about it because it should not be. It's still very, especially for youth, because what you're saying about like having like, create the art from it, like from your heartbreak, and whether it's the songwriting, the painting, the writing, whatever it is a form of releasing energy instead of just keeping all that bottled up and repressed, which is, as we all know, is not healthy. So if you can release it in some way, release it in some way. Absolutely. So I love that. Thank you so much for your final statement.
You're welcome.
So please share where listeners can find you both online and maybe offline as well.
Okay, so I am pretty active on Instagram. It's Poetry Von Chelle. So Poetry, VONCHELLE. That's also the same handle of my TikTok. So I post both on there. And my website is poetryvonchelle.com. So if you'd like a commissioned poem from me, feel free to hit me up. And I would absolutely love to write for you.
Yay, great. And then I will have all of those linked up in the show notes. And then do you have like any brick and mortar places that you go to, or is there like a farmer's market or like a venue that you frequent to where people might be able to find you in person if they're in the LA area?
I mean, I would honestly say just follow me on Instagram. I will post a schedule of my upcoming events because I go to different events, but I guess the ones I frequent the most are the spiritual witchy market pop-ups, because what I also do is like I do cold intuitive readings, and I turn the wisdom I channel for you into poetry form. So that's pretty much a big hit in the spiritual wellness, mystical magic themed markets. But I also do other places where I'm invited to. So just stay tuned for wherever I'll be popping up next.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, that's very valuable information. Okay, so we'll all be watching you to see where you are next. And thank you so much for this conversation today. I'm so glad that you decided to be on the show. This was really fun.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much for having me.
So, what do you think? How do you feel? If you like this episode and would like to hear another, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you have some extra time, check out my Substack at jitsi.substack.com. The link will be in the show notes. There, you can check out my memoir series that inspired the podcast and can peek inside the real-life stories and experiences that inspire the topics in each episode. The Crush Chronicles podcast is 100% produced by me, Rachel Jitsawat. The music is by Music Town, and the sound effects are by Pixabay. Thank you for listening, and until next time, remember, love yourself first. The rest will follow.